Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in living and thriving land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and this is 1 bazillion million trillion day of COVID-19 excitement and joy and just the fantastic aspects of what COVID-19 has done for our society, our community, and well, Route 776 traffic here in the Gulf Coast of Florida. It has been a nightmare. Y'all need to slow down. Get off the damn phone. I saw 4 accidents in less than 24 hours, and these were T-bones. These were nasty. Y'all need to stop and learn how to drive. I'm telling you. Do you have that problem over there, Chuck, where you are?
All the time. I live outside Richmond.
Oh God, yes, you do. I avoid Richmond like a plague.
Yeah, it can be a nightmare. Sometimes you just zip right through, and other times it's like, will I ever make it to the other side?
I literally watched them resuscitate or try to resuscitate a poor fellow last night who got T-boned at a turnaround. And
oh my goodness.
There was no life to him, and they were trying, but you just knew. And I'm sitting here going, was it really that important to be that fast?
Yeah, when I was teaching my daughter how to drive, I pointed out that if you do 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, and you go this distance, you'll get there like this many minutes earlier. It's really not that big a deal.
Well, I got a little bit of a foot too. That's why I'm only allowed to have a 4-cylinder. But still, it's like, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's in the water or if it's the weather or if it's this COVID or the politics, or there's just such a huge myriad of stuff going on that people are, showing their true colors, and I'm good. I'm staying home.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of frustration in the world right now. And I think it comes out sometimes in some really horrible ways.
Yeah. I decided that I think it's just people dealing with grief, because not a lot of people are used to being quiet. Us spiritual types, we like to sit back and meditate and pray and, breathe and really be conscious of those things. And a lot of people are not like that anymore. And so they're being forced to unplug and rewire. And it's kind of scary because you have to get good with who you are.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that don't handle being with themselves very well.
Shoot, I'm funny as hell. I can handle being with myself all day long.
I am too.
I got my nerves.
I'm my own best company sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I swear like a sailor. So we have a good time.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So Chuck, tell us who you are, what you do, and what makes you you.
My name is, I go by Chuck Tabb. I'm an author, but when I write, I use my given name of Charles Tabb, and that's what I do. I write novels and short stories, and I've got 3 novels out right now. I hope to have a 4th out by the end of the year, and it's basically, what I do for that. I'm married. I have a child and a stepchild, and we're all very happy. They're, of course, all grown, and 2 grandchildren, and they are a blast, to say the least.
Well, you can give them back. That's why they're so much fun. They're not yours. You'd be like, hey, let's dope you up and stay up all night and drop you off at mom's at 7.
Yeah, they come stay with us like 2 days a week, and the kind of just with the way the scheduling works. And I love having them here, and I love seeing them go home. So it's, I understand, yes.
Yeah.
But we're happy, got 2 dogs, 2 horses. The horses are more my wife's. I just wave at them and say hello.
And pay for their food.
Yeah, there you go. But that's, basically it. I'm a retired teacher. I taught English for about 30 years in North Carolina, and moved up here to be near the grandchildren. So, it's a good life. And one thing I tell people is I'm also a cancer survivor. So there's that as well. It kind of helps, has helped shape who I am.
I think that when God gives you that big 2x4, it gives you a little dose of perspective. And
Mhm.
for those of us who have had cancer, I as well,
Uh-huh.
and I've been shot the whole gamut. I think I'm down to 2 lives out of 9, but we're cloning.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
it's all about perspective. And one of the reasons why I do this show is because you don't know what you don't know until you know. And
Yeah.
the fact is, if you want to have an opinion, you need to walk in that person's shoes. That's my belief. As
Hmm.
a cancer survivor,
Yeah.
nobody knows cancer like you do.
Yeah. It's the people who've never had a doctor look at them and tell them you have cancer really cannot grasp the feeling
Yep.
that happens when you're told that. Because when I was young, uh, I knew. I mean, I had an uncle who died of cancer. My stepfather died of cancer when I was young. Um, it was basically back then, you got cancer and it was going to kill you. That was it. In
Nice.
fact, the kind of cancer I had, um, the doctor told me that if I had gotten the same cancer 10 years ago, there would be little he could do about it. So, I give regularly to help with research and stuff, because if it hadn't been for that research and for people working very hard and very long hours to save people that they would never meet, I would not be here now. So I don't take that for granted at all.
No, sir. No, sir. So the part of you that makes you ooey gooey on the inside is what I do. I get to dissect you and find that spark.
Okay.
So
I'm
when
an open book.
you're only 4 books, come on. I'm doing my 16th, man. Come on, catch up.
There you go. There you go.
Um,
Yeah.
so when did you
Late
start
start.
writing and why?
Ooh, actually, it's kind of interesting, because when I was a child and growing up through my teen years, even, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a writer. But then I realized that I also like eating and paying my bills. And so I went to college to be a teacher. I was thinking I could teach and write, and yet just.
I was a parent
Yes,
educator for
I know
years.
the
No.
naivete of youth, right? What's really funny is that my introduction to education professor, uh, my first semester of school, my second semester, he was also my creative writing professor, because I took a creative writing course in college. And he told me, he said, "Don't be a teacher." And I was like,
Excellent
"Why
advice.
not? I'm not going to be a terrible teacher." And he goes, "You'll make a great teacher." He said, "But you'll think you can write, that you'll have time to write, but you won't." And of course, young guy that I was, I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have time." No, didn't have time. I probably could have made time in the summer, but the problem is that you have to get yourself in a habit. You understand that, you have to have a habit of sitting down to write if you're going to do it.
Well,
You
and you
can't
had
just,
kids and you had a
yeah,
marriage and
oh
you had
yeah,
a mortgage.
yeah, and then got married,
Yeah, you
kids,
don't
all
get
these
paid in
things.
the summer as a teacher.
Yeah, it's not what you think it is when you're going into it. So why I became a writer, I was 8 years old the first time it occurred to me that I wanted to be a writer. I was, just to date myself a little bit, the #1 TV show was Bonanza back then.
Daddy,
And, huh?
daddy.
And it's funny because I was sitting, we would watch that every Sunday night. And when it was over, it was bedtime, right? And I was watching it, and I noticed in the beginning credits, there was this kind of old white-haired looking guy, kind of looked a little like Mark Twain kind of thing, and he's got this book in his hand, and the words "written by" and this person. And I thought, wow, I could actually write and make money doing that, right? Make a living doing that.
Yeah,
So
joke's on you.
yeah. Yeah, so when you ask why, I'm really not sure why, because it's been part of who I am for so long. But when I retired from teaching and had the time, I thought, maybe I should finish at least one of these books I've started, because I would start them but never be able to finish them. And I had written 2 chapters of my book, Floating Twigs, at that point, and hadn't touched it in maybe 3 or 4 years even, just I had done a little bit. And so I thought, well, I've got the time now, I might as well sit down and do some writing with it. So I did. And strangely, I wrote the rest of it. I mean, it's like an 86,000 word book. And I wrote the rest of the first draft in 3 to 4 months. It had been, as what I call, percolating for a really long time. And so I dashed it out quickly, then took about a year editing it and polishing it, making it as good as I could make it. So that's kind of where it started. And I'm also a lover of detective fiction, crime fiction. And my other books right now, the 2 other books are the first 2 in a series of Detective Tony Pantera. I've written those 2 and they're out. And my next book, which is coming out, hopefully, God willing, before Christmas, is called Canary's Song. That's a plural possessive. And it's another literary book like Floating Twigs. So I've decided what I'm going to do is try to write 2 books a year. And the next one after Canary Song will be the next in the detective series. I've got actually the next 2 planned. And then the one after that's going to be actually a sequel to Floating Twigs. And I'll do a literary towards the end of the year and sort of alternate back and forth as long as God allows me to breathe. So
now you better be careful in Richmond, especially in the summertime, because I don't know about that breathing part. I just stay home.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I actually live outside of Richmond. I live in a rural area.
Okay.
Outside of Richmond.
So you're kind of safe.
So yeah, I'm kind of away from it.
95.
I only have to do it if I have to do it, to go in there.
So there's a lot of things that I find interesting learning how to be a writer, which I've always written. It doesn't mean I've written well. And I'm a grammarian's nightmare. Yeah. And so in college, my English teacher told me to basically stick it in my ear and never try to write again. Yeah, she was not a nice person. And so I had an English teacher in 7th grade who was basically the same attitude, but I still persevered. I still kept going. And no, I'm not grammatically correct by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm having fun with it. And I don't really care because the results are people are really enjoying them. Whatever. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the fears as I coach people and I talk to people around the world about writing a book is that they're not educated enough to even start. And I personally can testify that that's not true. Mm-hmm. But you're an English teacher, so you're a little bit probably more smarter about that English there than I am.
Well, yeah, grammar is easy for me, but yeah.
Well, and I attended 23 schools, so every 4 to 6 months we were on the road, and you miss things. Mm-hmm. But what would your largest advice be for somebody who really has an itch to write, but they're terrified that they're not good enough?
Well, you'll never know unless you try. I mean, it's okay because I will tell you my early stuff when I was young enough to where I didn't really know that I wasn't any good was awful. It truly is like a muscle, I think, where the more you do it, the better you get at it. Another thing is to make sure you read really good literature. Read the stuff that the vast majority of people have said, this is a great book. It is extremely well written. Because what happens as a writer, I began to look critically at books from a writer's viewpoint in terms of what is this writer doing? Why is this paragraph in here, for instance? Why is this chapter in here? What's happening? Why is this author doing this particular thing? And because I write fiction, it's all up to imagination. And depending on what kind of fiction you write, anything is possible. So my big advice would be, don't worry about that little voice, because even the best writers that we have today suffer imposter syndrome. You know, what makes, you know, everybody thinks I'm good, but this is garbage. You know, I write things all the time. And I mean, I started writing my book that I'm currently working on and just put it aside for a while. I was like, this is crap, you know? So it really is a case of, don't worry about the inner voice that's telling you you can't, because that's always the thing that's trying to hold you down. And it's all too often successful in doing that little voice that tells you you're not good enough. So don't listen to that voice. Write, even if it's terrible. I remember hearing an interview. I've got Sirius XM radio, and I was listening to an interview with a guy who is a songwriter. And his group was always covering songs, that he didn't want to write songs because he was afraid they wouldn't be any good. And this person who was quite successful as a songwriter told him, yes, the first things you write won't be very good, but they'll get better. And it's just a matter of doing it.
Well, and it's like, it's no different than picking up a guitar, or learning how to drive a car, or anything like that. I mean, the first few times you're gonna kind of be wobbly, but you get better. And I also think that there's a certain level when you get into your writing and you get into your shtick, and you kind of stop giving a crap about other people's opinions. It's like, okay, yeah, you think I suck. That's great. Good for you. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I have some good beta readers. They will tell me what they think. There's an entire chunk of floating twigs that I removed because a beta reader told me this just doesn't seem real. It doesn't really, this isn't what I think would really happen. And I looked at it critically, and that's one thing is you have to still listen to people whose opinions you trust. Now,
yeah, but never ever listen to your mother's opinion, because I'm a mom.
Oh no.
You, it's fantastic, sweetheart. Good job.
Then anything you write is wonderful. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to find people, like I say, you trust their opinion. You trust them to tell you this needs improvement, or this isn't good, or this isn't working. And be willing to step out there and risk the rotten tomatoes being thrown at you. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been so lucky. Floating Twigs, the vast majority of the reviews from readers are 5-star reviews, a fair number of 4-star reviews, and there are some 3, 2, and 1-star reviews as well. And I say in past tense because this is before pandemic. I would go into schools and talk to schools and arrange to talk to the English classes mostly. And I would talk about goal setting. And I would use my writing as an example of that, because you can't just go in with this captive audience and buy my book. I would always donate some books to the library so they didn't have to do that. But I used my writing as an example. And I would bring with me the typed manuscript of floating twigs on regular 8.5 by 11 paper, and it was 287 pages of typed manuscript. And I would hold that up. I would say, now let me ask you this: if you were to write just one page a day, just one, don't worry about more than that, but just write one page a day, how many days would it take you to write these 287 pages? And even the most mathematically challenged kids would get 287 days. And then I would ask them, yeah, I would ask them, I say, I would ask them, I say, how many days are in a year? And they would suddenly realize that if they were to commit to do that, they could write a book of that length in about 9 months. And I would say, it's like the old joke, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's like, just break it down. Don't worry about it. Sit down every day and do a little bit of writing. And don't worry about whether it's good or bad, because they would ask me, what do you do? How do you feel about bad reviews? I said, well, I don't like them. I said, but it's kind of like music. I say, if you, and I'd ask them, how many of you like a song or a group or something, and you have a friend who doesn't particularly care for that song or the group, and everybody's hand would go up. I said, it's the same thing. Anything that deals with anything artistic in that manner, you're going to have people who like it and who don't like it. And so I said, don't worry about that.
Where if you actually look at the time, it's a very fast clock, isn't it? So what is that big cosmic orgasm that you have? What gets you excited? What gets you to jump out of bed and be like, oh man, I got a character, or I'm gonna kill him this way?
I think it's different things with the different genres that I write. Because I write multiple genres. Short stories, I go everything from humor to horror. But with my novels, with the detective series, I'm what's called a pantser. I have an idea of where I'm going, but I don't plot the whole thing out. And it will be a moment where suddenly the crux of everything occurs to me. The thing that I need to write so that everything makes perfect sense and it all fits together. That will happen with the detective books. With my literary novels, it's coming up with the lines, and there are really only a few within a book. The sentences that tell what the book is really about. Because literary novels, they're very thematically driven, character driven. And it's like in Floating Twigs, my character is the son of alcoholic parents, and they love him. They just don't know how to love him. And so he's thinking, after he's talking to this woman that he's gotten a job with, he's thinking to himself how his mother loves her beer more than she loves him. It doesn't mean she doesn't love him. She loves the beer more. And the line that came to me, and it was like when I wrote it, I just sat back and was like, holy crap, that's a great line. He says, the beer owned her. I only rented her. And to me, that gathered everything about that character and his situation and everything. To think that he rents his mother, that the beer owns her, that it had swallowed her rather than her swallowing the beer. And so it's coming up with a line like that just, I can get chills from doing, because that's when you're really writing. It's when you write something like that people are going to stop and go, oh, when they read it. So I get really excited.
Well, and you need to be, because it is an art form within itself, but larger than that, it's very indicative of your DNA. So you write things with some portions of truth to what resonates with your inner being.
Yeah.
And I find it really fascinating that a lot of my friends that are authors, they write, we write a lot of self-help books, my whole group, right?
Yeah.
And we're really into it and we're really groovy about that. But quite frankly, I read horror.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like there's something that is so playful about writing, so playful about reading, and so playful about creating that environment to go into your own mental labyrinth. And then you get to share it with other people to see how their labyrinth opens up. So that's kind of it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's I think books are a great way of communicating with people you'll never meet in your life.
And
Because,
for me
I mean, you can read my books and you will get a feeling, a sense of knowing who I am. I'm not my character Jack at all. I actually based his situation on a friend of mine when I was a kid. But the rest of who Jack is, his personality, there's a lot of me in there. And it's the same with my detective, Tony Pantera. There's a lot of me in there. And I'm so interested in the fact that we're all very flawed human beings, but that there is a spark of perfection within us. I think God grants us.
I haven't found my diamond yet. I'm still rubbing it up.
But it's in there.
It's in there somewhere. I love the fact that when I do my self-help work and I share that, I know that it helps at least one person. And I really believe that that level of excitement and creativity that you can put into something, it's really a lot like rearing your child in a lot of ways, because writing is a very ugly process. Anybody tells you it's romantic, shoot them.
Yeah. That's true.
Lord. And
there's no beauty until it's all done. So yeah.
There's no beauty until you really hate it.
Yeah.
To the end, you've edited it like 15 times, you've taken everything out, you've curved it this way and you've done it that way, and you're like, okay, I don't like you anymore, we're done.
Yeah.
The best divorce you could ever have. And then when you have some time in between, you're like, oh, I like you again.
Yes. That's what happened with my current book. I got like, I hate this. And then I got back to it and it's like, oh, and that's what happened is I understood my book that I'm trying to write. That's really kind of what happens, you know? It's like, okay, now I get what I'm writing here. So, yeah.
We're wrapping up, but I've got a couple more questions before I leave you. What is your favorite tool of choice for writing?
My memories.
That's a good tool. I was thinking something physical, but if we want to dig into your brain, we can do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. All my writing is, I think, up here. You know, yeah. And I cannot do longhand because then I won't be able to read it later. It's my handwriting is awful. I can remember my grades in handwriting in school were just, we'll be nice and get him a C. You know.
Maybe a C minus just because he brought me cookies.
Yeah, yeah.
My personal favorite tool of choice, which I have all over the house, and my daughter gets very angry with me, is index cards.
Okay. Yeah, I have a notepad in my shower. Yeah, I've got a waterproof notepad in case something occurs to jot it down. So I guess that would be one of my favorites.
That would be your second favorite tool.
There you go.
Yeah, I have more index card bits and pieces. And actually, if you were just to throw them up in the air and put them in a big pile, you could probably create 5 or 6 books.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know the feeling. Especially when you're doing nonfiction, it just depends on where you put things. Yeah.
Well, and well, I would imagine that kind of neuroses happens when you're writing fiction as well, because you'll be driving down the road. It's like, oh, I gotta pull over before I forget. And you have to write it down, or you have to record it somehow, because man, I've got great thoughts, man.
The recording device on my phone is a godsend. Yeah, I understand that. And what really will happen too is when I've written something and I realized 4 chapters ago I needed to do this, you know, and have to go back and rewrite that chapter and do stuff. So yeah, it's all it's like I tell students, I say your first draft is good for 2 things: throwing it away and polishing it up. One of the two. It is not, you know, even when I taught, I was like, please don't turn in your rough draft unless you're writing something in class that's due at the end of class. So, yeah.
So, Charles, where do we
Yeah.
find more information about you? And I'm sure you've sent me links, and I apologize for being a little dingy because I
That's
told
all
you my
right.
daughter's
No.
doctor talks a lot. And
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, it's like your brain's in 17 places at the same time. Probably like most people's. It's really easy. It's charlestabb.com. That's with 2 B's, Tabb, .com. And you can go there on my homepage. You can sign up for my newsletter on my homepage. And there's a list of links at the top, and books is where you can go and check out the blurbs on my various books, including the one that's coming out this fall, late fall. So, and purchase them from there. There's a click to purchase. So
this episode is going to air sometime in December. So your new book that this episode would be appropriate for.
I am certainly planning. It's called Canaries Song. That's IES apostrophe, Canaries.
And what is it about, quickly?
It's about a man who's a teacher. He teaches English. He's a widower, which I'm not. He's a widower, and he's raising 3 daughters, and one of them is a special needs child. She's intellectually challenged. She's 11, but she's more like a 5-year-old. And she asks, after her mother dies, she wants canaries. And he gets her the canaries, and it's the song and the music of the canaries that becomes kind of representative of some things within the context of the book.
All right, so, no spoiler alerts.
No spoilers.
All right, Chuck, it's been a blast having you on. Thank you for being patient.
I have enjoyed it so much. Yeah. You take care.
If I remember correctly, you mentioned in one of your, I think it was you went to Funky Thinkers?
I'm sorry?
Did you go to Funky Thinkers?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so now that you are not a virgin of Funky Thinkers anymore, you are, with my permission and blessing, which is the only way you get to go on the show, is fill out the form on John's website and tell him that I sent you. Maybe you'll be on the show too. It is so much fun.
Okay, and repeat the instruction one more time, because I had a hard time hearing it.
That's okay. I was married once.
No, it's really deafness. Go ahead.
So on the Funky Thinkers website contact form, just tell Jonathan, who's the owner, tell him that I sent you as a potential candidate for season 3.
Okay. All right. Season 3. I'd love to.
Yeah.
All right.
Chuck, thank you so much for sharing your insight. And I really appreciate you and your wife and the horses and all the stories that you're bringing to life, because we need creativity. We need to turn off our TV, and we need to really appreciate words. A lot of words. I love words.
Yes.
We don't have enough words. Can you believe our language is actually the most complex language, because we have bazillions of words, but they're just not enough for me.
Yeah, I understand. I'm in there with you.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Thank you. Bye now.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. I'm Rusty, and that was Chuck Tabb, T-A-B-B. Yeah, 2 B's. He had to make it hard. I mean, he's like an author and stuff. Anyway, go and get his book. This will be around Christmas time by the time you see it. And I live in Florida, so it's perpetual summer. I have no idea what time of the day it is anymore. Eat 2 cookies. Don't eat 4. Knock on your neighbor's door. Make sure they're still alive. Maybe start thinking about going through your closet, since we have all of this extra time, and digging stuff out that you're not going to wear anymore. I know personally I gained 18 pounds, so I have a lot to donate. 18 pounds included. And it's not a body this time. Nonetheless, it's almost Christmas time, and people are going to have a hard time this year on a lot of levels, emotionally, mentally, family-wise, gift-wise. So do what you can for other people. Kind of, shut up with the whininess. It's not about you. It's about us. It's about a community. Donate what you can. Bake what you can. You can bake things for your neighbors. Those are great gifts. We're going back old school. We're going all the way back to when I was a kid, which is like 1980s. Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, well, I'm just an old man, but go ahead.
The best thing that we could have gotten as a child was like a bike or a new coat or a new sweater. It wasn't all this other flippy floppy having to spend $1,000 per child nonsense. I mean, we kept it real, we kept it simple, and we're kind of going back to that root. So arts and crafts friends, start digging in those piles. I know you got piles of stuff you could be creating to gift to somebody who needs it this year. Know that you're loved, know that you're beautiful, and hey, I'll see you next time. Go play with your Nerf guns for me. One day they'll sponsor me.